You are listening to PR Radio Station of America.
On a quiet Wednesday morning in Dallas, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility prepared for another routine day. Detainees were being moved through the Sally Port, a secure entry point where vehicles arrive and leave under controlled conditions. Without warning, gunfire erupted from above. The shots were not isolated. They came in a steady rhythm, echoing against the concrete walls of the building. Authorities quickly identified the source of the attack as a man positioned on a nearby rooftop. From this elevated vantage point, the shooter aimed directly into the secure entryway. Glass shattered as bullets struck windows, and detainees inside transport vans screamed in confusion and fear. Officers scrambled to take cover, unsure if the gunman would continue his assault or move to a new target. 3 detainees inside a single van were struck by the gunfire. Witnesses later said it all happened in seconds. When the shooting stopped, 1 detainee was dead and 2 others were critically injured. Federal officials confirmed that despite the proximity, no ICE agents or staff were hit. That fact, they said, was more luck than protection. Investigators later said the randomness of the shooting made it especially dangerous. The detainees had never left their vehicles. The bullets pierced metal and glass, hitting them inside. Officers on the ground braved the ongoing fire to pull wounded detainees to safety. These moments, authorities emphasized, reflected the bravery of staff who acted without hesitation in the face of life-threatening danger. By the time local police and federal agents secured the scene, the shooter was no longer a threat. He was found dead, the rifle at his side, the final shot having ended his own life. For acting IC Director Todd Lyons, who once worked in that very Dallas office, the attack was more than professional. He later described it as his worst nightmare, a tragedy that underscored the vulnerability of both detainees and staff. As investigators combed the rooftop and surrounding area, they discovered unusual evidence. Near the body of the shooter, 1 bullet casing bore a handwritten message. The words "anti-IC" stood out, immediately raising suspicions about motive. The FBI classified the incident as targeted violence, sparking debate about whether the attack was a political act. Vice President J.D. Vance told reporters that unreleased evidence indicated the shooter was politically motivated. He went as far as to describe the suspect as a violent extremist targeting law enforcement. This assessment drew sharp attention, given the national climate of protests and debates over immigration enforcement. At the same time, officials cautioned against drawing conclusions too quickly. Motive is one of the most complex elements in violent crimes, and investigators admitted they lacked a full picture. Was this an ideological attack, or was it rooted in personal struggles, resentment, or instability? That remained unclear. For many, the discovery of a bullet marked with words echoed recent incidents where shooters left messages on ammunition as a chilling form of communication. Authorities noted that such details fit into a pattern of politically charged violence that had unsettled law enforcement across the country in recent months. The uncertainty only deepened as family members of the shooter spoke publicly. His brother insisted that Joshua Jahn had never expressed strong feelings about immigration enforcement. That contradiction between official statements and family accounts left a wide gap in the public's understanding, fueling speculation and mistrust. Joshua Jahn's life story began far from the rooftop where it ended. Born and raised in Allen, Texas, about 30 miles north of Dallas, he grew up in a relatively ordinary family environment. He and his brother Noah were Boy Scouts, where they learned outdoor skills and community service. Friends remember him as quiet but dependable. Public records revealed a more complicated adulthood. In 2016, Joshua was charged with delivering marijuana in an amount greater than 1/4 ounce, but less than 5 pounds. He pleaded guilty to the felony, a conviction that marked a turning point in his life. Still, his family maintained that he had not been violent or politically active. Noah said Joshua showed an interest in coding, spending long hours on computers and teaching himself software basics. Yet steady employment never materialized. At the time of the shooting, he was reportedly unemployed and preparing to move on to his parents' property in Oklahoma, a plan that suggested he was looking for stability rather than conflict. In politics, Joshua appeared disengaged. Records showed he registered as an independent voter in Oklahoma and had last voted in November. There was no clear alignment with any party or political group. This fact only deepened the mystery about why he might leave behind a bullet marked with anti-IC. To his brother, Joshua was unique, but not dangerous. Noah admitted his brother was different in some ways, but he firmly rejected the idea that Joshua had been radicalized. He described their last meeting, just 2 weeks before the attack, as completely normal. Nothing, he said, hinted at the violence to come. As investigators built a timeline, others who had known Joshua were interviewed. A former Boy Scout troop member recalled conversations about migrant caravans and immigration. According to him, Joshua once expressed frustration with how immigration issues were handled, but his tone was empathetic rather than hostile. He criticized people for failing to understand why migrants sought to leave desperate conditions. This troop member said Joshua was passionate about issues, but not someone who supported violence. The revelation was puzzling. How could a man who once argued against violence become the source of it in such a dramatic and public way? The troop member admitted he lost touch with Joshua about 5 years ago. At that time, Joshua had mentioned moving to Oklahoma and starting fresh. Like Noah, the troop member remembered Joshua as someone who would help friends in need, whether with physical tasks or emotional support. The troop member emphasized that Joshua's father had been active in their scout troop, further cementing the idea that Joshua's upbringing was rooted in community values. That made the eventual turn toward violence even harder to reconcile. When asked to reflect on Joshua's decision to open fire, the troop member said the identification did not make sense. He insisted that Joshua had never condoned violent actions in the past, which left him shocked and deeply unsettled by the tragic outcome. Even as personal accounts painted Joshua as nonviolent, investigators noted that he had access to firearms at his parents' property. His brother acknowledged that Joshua knew how to use their family rifle, though he was not a trained marksman. That detail led authorities to conclude that his attack may have been more impulsive than calculated. The randomness of the bullets, striking detainees through vehicles, reinforced this theory. Officials said the attack lacked precision but still caused catastrophic harm. The apparent absence of a clear plan made the shooting all the more dangerous for anyone near the facility that morning. For the FBI and IC, the labeling of the attack as targeted violence was critical. Even if Jahn's motives remain uncertain, the evidence pointed to a deliberate decision to attack a federal facility. The discovery of messages on the ammunition confirmed that at least some thought had gone into making a statement. For family and friends, however, the case remains unresolved emotionally. They struggle to connect the Joshua they knew with the man who fired down into a crowded sally port. Their stories describe a man with flaws, unemployment, and a past felony, but not someone plotting an armed assault. In the end, the shooting left behind more questions than answers. It highlighted the risks faced by law enforcement, the vulnerability of detainees, and the unpredictable nature of individuals who may act out violently without warning. The lives lost and altered that morning in Dallas are a grim reminder of how quickly an ordinary day can turn into tragedy. This is the end of that story. Now tell me in the comments, what's your story? I'll read out the most interesting ones in the next video. Do not forget to hit a like button and subscribe. See you.